along with the Minnesota Vikings quarterback room, the running backs for this team are going to have a major overhaul come this offseason. Whether it is free agency, whether it's the draft, there's going to be a lot of thinking to do for Kwesi, Adofo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell heading into next season. We're going to be talking about everything that we have regarding the Minnesota Vikings running backs, as well as a very sneaky draft pick the Vikings need to make. Before we get into this video, we know that 91% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. If you're looking for a spot to get all your Minnesota Vikings news, you're in the right spot. Hit the sub button, join us here on the channel. We are covering everything Minnesota Vikings. Without any further ado, Griffin, let's get into this because we have some brand new names to talk about for this Minnesota Vikings team. Before, though, we want to get into that, we got to touch on what Aaron Jones had to say about his tenure in Minnesota and what he wants to see with the future of his career. I'll pull up first screenshot saying, "I hope I'm here until the end of my career." This is what he had said Wednesday, being last Wednesday. And honestly, this is an excellent place. And there's no doubt in my mind Aaron Jones wants to stay. And we've seen Aaron Jones really have a very good year, one of the best in his career, and also the second year that he's played 17 games in this in his career. And with the way the Vikings team played this season, the way the offense was structured, the way that everybody around the offense played and felt, you could tell that this is an organization that people want to play in. People want to be in Minnesota right now, especially under Kevin O'Connell. The way that his offense and the way that Wes Phillips' offense really have structured themselves to find the success, even when they may not be looking for it over the past season and looking in the future. This is a place that I think, and without a doubt, everybody wants to play. And going further in this, Aaron Jones kind of talked about what people thought about him with the Minnesota Vikings and initially what people are going to think about him going into free agency as he is a free agent. This year he says, "Last year I missed a handful of games and played through injury as well. With that, I guess the narrative got out there that he's injury prone and consistently injured. This season, I'm letting guys know that whatever I go through throughout the week or in that game, I'm going to be ready the following Sunday." And firsthand, we got to see that dog in Aaron Jones. We knew that he was a dog regardless, but proved it this season, playing through so many injuries, popping out for a few plays here, coming back in. We could tell how hurt he was, but still wanting to get out there. And Aaron Jones served the Minnesota Vikings so well in this season, and there's lots of opportunities for him to return to this team. Now, Griffin, what did you think about Aaron Jones? And also, what do you think the future holds for him and the Minnesota Vikings?
Season, Aaron Jones was one of my most exciting signings that we had. I was so happy we got him, especially because we poached him from Green Bay and we were able to just turn him against them, and he had great games against them this season. So it was awesome. He got revenge in that sense. But just overall this season, he was great. He was great early in the season, especially just rattling off touchdowns, getting game-sealing touchdowns. There was a little bit of ball security issues towards the end of the year, and as far as defense was just figuring out our offense and being able to stymie the run. But overall, he had one of the best years of his career. He had one of the best years for a Minnesota Vikings running back, too. I know we still are in the shadow of the glory days of Dalvin Cook and Adrian Peterson, but Aaron Jones made a case as to why he can be mentioned in that same breath, especially if he continues to play in Minnesota if they do re-sign him. Now, again, the injuries are something to worry about, but I do commend him greatly for playing through everything that he went through. You could tell he was hurt. Regardless of what the injury was, he still didn't miss much time, especially if it was during a game or leading into a game. No matter how questionable the tag was, he was still ready to go on Sunday. So yes, that's something that you got to commend him for, but how long can he do that for? You got to make sure that he's not just doing that and just risking himself getting a career-ending injury or a season-ending injury. You have to be very smart with it. And I know sometimes players, they tell the doctors one thing when they're really feeling another in the game or even in week preparation. I've heard so many stories about, even on the Edelman and Amendola podcast, where they're talking about when one guy would get knocked out, their protocol they would do to fool the doctor so they could still keep playing. So players still have that in them where they're competitors first and they're worried about their health second for the most part. So if they can go in there, as long as it's not risking too much, or if they're able to still walk, they're going to try and fight it on the field. That's what you want in a competitor. But at what expense are you willing to go for that? That's something the Minnesota Vikings have to really consider heading into this offseason. But again, nothing from that takes away from the great season that Aaron Jones had and what he meant to this team this season.
And I do think that he's still a very big piece of this team's plan for the future. We know that Aaron Jones, although the injuries are happening and he hasn't only had, 2 full seasons in his career, he still played fantastic this season. And looking back at this year in particular, the best season of his career, yards-wise and overall, only 5 touchdowns, but we were seeing every single game, he really hammered that ball down the middle, do exactly what he needed to do, get a great run, just fill the void the team has missed, with Alexander Mattison being as the first back. But there are a lot of things going through the mind of people as well about what's going to happen. Is he going to potentially, go somewhere else? Does he want to go somewhere else? Although he says he wants to end his career here, the Vikings have to think about the future as well, because we know that the offense is structured very well, and J.J. McCarthy having a very similar offense to what he had last year, but we also know that he is a run-first quarterback. By that, I also mean running back, not just his own feet. We saw him in Michigan be a very, very good quarterback to help out his running back, and that would be interesting to help Aaron Jones as well, but that also puts a lot more stress on Aaron Jones on the injury side of things when it does come down to it, getting the ball more, and just really probably not suit Aaron Jones the best. Although I'm a big advocate for it, time will have to tell about what Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell choose to do in this situation. We know that there's quite a few coming out of the draft. The number one, of course, being Ashton Jeanty out of Boise State, but he's going around that 12-13 mark, currently projected to go to the Dallas Cowboys. Then we see Quinshon Judkins, a guy from Ohio State, who really just played in a fantastic season, an absolute dog, and Omarion Hampton being the top 3, rounding this out in this list. But there's one guy not here, a bit later going to be going, was in the round 3 compensation pick for the Minnesota Vikings, no longer at that, but projected in the 3rd round to the Cincinnati Bengals. In Cam Skattebo. He is a guy for Arizona State that completely turned that team around. We've seen the success that he had in the college not the national championships, sorry, the college playoffs. He had an absolutely insane game against Texas, and he's a guy that could be a sneaky, extremely Minnesota Vikings pick for this draft. So, Griffen, I know you had some things to say about him, and I think Cam Skattebo fits this agenda perfectly, especially with J.J. McCarthy, but what do you think about him? Do you think that he'd be a great pick for the Vikings, or are you thinking someone else?
Percent as far as all the running backs that I'm looking at. I know everyone wants to go with Cam Skattebo because he's the hot hand. He was the flashy name in this college season, especially in the playoff for the game that he had where he was just lights out and carried that team as far as he was able to carry them. Fortunately, they weren't able to get the win, but he still was the MVP of that team and one of the best running backs in college football last season. It's amazing to see that he's dropping so low in the projections considering what he did. I know there's a lot of question marks surrounding him. However, for this Vikings team, I think he's an absolute perfect fit. Now, quickly going on Aaron Jones and how it relates to this is that as great as Aaron Jones was this season, he's getting up there in age. He's starting to get older, and we're seeing that with how explosive he can be coming off the line of scrimmage. We really didn't see him accelerate too much unless he got to that second level and into the secondary. When we're playing against teams that have running backs like Jahmyr Gibbs, Joe Mixon, Josh Jacobs even, or even speedy quarterbacks as well, we are struggling to keep up defensively and offensively because we don't have the capacities to compete with that kind of running back as far as our backfield goes. And especially when you have a quarterback like J.J. McCarthy, who everyone says he's nothing without his running back. He's only as good as his running back is. Well, if that noise is going to be there regardless, take a little bit of the pressure off him and go and get the best running back that you can that fits this team. Skattebo is definitely that because just look at what he was doing last year and the size of him. He's built like a brick, you know what. He's fast. He can throw. He's tough. He's going to fight tooth and nail through everything. He's like a bigger Christian McCaffrey almost, and he's just ready to be that power back. He reminds me a bit of Toby Gerhart back in the day, and we know how good he was for the Vikings backing up Adrian Peterson. So if you bring in Skattebo, and then you go out and get a free agent running back. I know Aaron Jones, he was great this season. However, when looking at the running back free agents this season or this upcoming offseason, you see a lot more younger guys. You see a lot more faster guys that could complement the power like Skattebo so that we can compete with teams like the Lions, where the Lions, they have Sonic and Knuckles with Montgomery and Gibbs. We need to have our own tandem for that speed and that power that can go toe-to-toe with them and show, hey, we might have a passing game that's elite. You guys have a passing game that's elite, but we also have the running backs to run you guys out the water, and we got to make sure that we do that.
Yeah, and I do think he is really the exact definition of a running back that the Vikings need. And especially going into free agency, there are not too many great free agents here. And now, of course, there are a few great ones, but there's no names that really stand out as that young, guaranteed success running back here. You know, you have Rico Dowdle, a guy who has had that success in this season, still very young, still a lot to prove, and will have quite a bit of potential. But other than that, you don't see too many other ones. You know, Najee Harris is still on the younger side, has not really seen that success that everybody had hoped for. Jordan Mason, a very interesting one, a guy who proved himself this season with the absence of Christian McCaffrey. But apart from really Rico Dowdle, Jordan Mason, there's nobody here that really catches my eye as that 1A, 1B running back to go up along with Cam Skattebo. But real quickly, Griffen, do you think that there's anybody here that would fit the Vikings system and scheme?
I think there's a few in there. I think Elijah Mitchell, or not Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason, I should say, because of what he did filling in for McCaffrey. And Kevin O'Connell is coming from that Kyle Shanahan tree and the Sean McVay tree, where Sean McVay, look at what the Rams are doing with Kyron Williams. Fantastic. Look what the 49ers were able to do regardless of who the running back was. Even when they had Isaac Guerrero in there, he had a great game too. So no matter who the Niners put in at running back, they're going to do well. What worries me is that they're going to actually pay Jordan Mason because of the Christian McCaffrey health concerns to make sure that he doesn't go anywhere. But if he doesn't, he would be a good fit in Minnesota. Rico Dowdle, we saw what he did this season in Dallas. He was really solid. I know the guy who won my fantasy league had him along with Joe Mixon, and I hated seeing him score touchdowns every week. So it'd be nice to see him do that for Minnesota, especially when he's a little bit faster than Aaron Jones is. Another one that's on there, I know I talked about the health concerns with Aaron Jones, but J.K. Dobbins, if he can stay healthy, he's an absolute dog, especially when he's in the right scheme. We saw what he was able to do this past season with the Chargers, and even when he just came back to health. He helped save my fantasy season a little bit with a late waiver wire pickup. So he's one of those guys too where, like Aaron Jones when he came to Minnesota, people were a lot of question marks, but a lot of optimism. I think J.K. Dobbins presents that exact thing as long as he can stay healthy.
Yeah, so let's know what you think in the comments below. There's a few names here that could be very interesting, but I think Cam Skattebo is the number one for the Minnesota Vikings right now. But like I said, let us know what you think in the comments below. But that's all we got for this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. But we're signing out. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.